Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar video. This is going to be some gameplay on the Avatar The Last Airbender Quickstrike trading card game. So I did a pack opening for I think it was 3 packs a few weeks back, and I decided, look, the last gameplay video I did on my channel was ages ago, wasn't really filmed all that well. The rules, I think they were roughly correct, but I didn't go particularly in depth. So I decided, let's actually use all the cards that I have, make 2 decks, and do a proper game in full. So that's what we're going to be doing here, is we're going to be playing a game of Quickstrike. I've made 2 decks, and I'll be showing you the gameplay. So here is the setup. So if you're not familiar with the game, basically the way you build a deck is that you first choose a character. So in this case, it's going to be Aang versus Zuko. Now, if you look at the cards, you can see there's 3 symbols down the side. So Aang is like Fox, this sort of energy-based symbol, and then the sun. That obviously means he's a good character. The Fox means that his attacks tend to be more on the sort of tricky side of things. Whereas Zuko, while he has the same kind of energy symbol in the middle, has this kind of bull symbol at the top that symbolizes, power, of course. His attacks, especially back in book 1, were more based on power. And then he's also a twilight character, so he's not good and he's not evil, he's somewhere in the middle. So those symbols, in addition to their element symbol here, determine what cards you can actually put in their decks. And I did actually build the decks correctly. So as you'll see here with Aang's deck, I only have strikes that have the fox symbol or the air symbol on them. With the allies, I only have characters who are light, or like cards like this that are unaffiliated regardless. The only unfortunate thing was that the best matchup between characters with the cards that I could do, unfortunately, means that the advantage cards have to be the same symbol for both characters. So you won't see a ton of variety on the advantage card side of things, but for the most part, the decks are built as best as I can, given that I don't have a complete collection. So with that in mind, you build 60 card decks. So I think if you buy the starter set, the basic idea is that you have 2 30 card decks, but if you want to play the game in full, you have full 60 card decks. You can only have 4 copies of each individual card in a deck, and basically beyond that they don't give you much deck building instruction. So the basic way to view the game is that there are 3 different types of cards. There are the strikes, the blue cards, which will make up the majority of your deck because they have the defense and attack values, or in this game it's called, defense is called intercept and attack is called force. So that's what the majority of your deck is made up of. The second most common card you'll see are the advantages, which are these sort of like orangey cards. And basically they're sort of like pretty much one-time use cards, but they help you to charge your zones so you can actually use your character card. And they pretty much have one-off effects that assist your strike cards. So that explains why you don't want as many of them, but you want some of them to assist the strikes. And then the least amount of cards you'll see in a deck are the ally cards. Now these cards will stay permanently on the field, but there's only 3 slots on the field for them, so you don't want to see too many of them. And again, they all have energy costs. You have to pay energy for all of these cards. But again, this is more of a permanent addition, but they maybe get in the way. So the tricky thing about this 60 card deck, how many of each card do you use? I actually did a bunch of testing between these decks to make sure that you'd see some of it. And the best ratio I could come up with was that both of the decks have the same ratio. So both decks have 7 ally cards in them, 12 advantage cards, and then the rest, so I think it's like 41 strikes. Again, if I had more cards, maybe I might have switched the ratio slightly, and it's always going to be a case of you adjust that. But I couldn't really find any information online about what the best ratio actually is. It very much depends on the cards and so on, and because there is no real structured game around this, it was very difficult to do that. So I erred on the side of caution. So there'll probably be a lot of strikes and maybe not as many ally or advantages, but I didn't want it to be the opposite, where the game would basically be determined by who flipped the least amount of those cards, because there are times where if you flip a bunch of allies or advantages in a row, the game just quickly goes south very quickly, as you can't really come back because you need the strikes to defend. So yeah, now we'll get into the board situation. So usually the way you're meant to play the game is you kind of have the two boards face each other. So the two character cards are like this, the two decks would be here, the two discard zones would be here, and then you basically have a channel on the board where you flip your cards into. That's just very difficult to show on camera. So instead, treat it as basically I flipped the zones this way. So each board has been rotated like 90 degrees so that you can see them all, so the cards are facing the right way, but it's still going to work that way. When Aang faces an attack, he's going to face it here first, then he'll move down into this zone, then he'll move down into this zone. That's what these cards here are meant to designate. This is the green zone here, this first zone, designated by the character card. The deck zone is the yellow zone, so yellow energy, green energy, and then the bottom zone is the discard pile, which is the red zone. So the idea is that you face attacks first in the green zone. If you can't handle it there, you go into the yellow zone. If you can't handle it there, you go into the red zone. If you can't handle it in the red zone, your opponent scores a point against you. And the aim is to score 3 points. So whoever scores 3 points first wins. So once you have your deck shuffled and the zones are organized, you have the characters. The characters obviously are double-sided. You always start on the side that has the symbols because it's basically the character cards have a strike within them, but they're special. The weaker side is on the front, and then they're stronger on the back. So the idea is, as you play advantages and charge up all your zones, you play the first side, then it gets flipped over, you charge up your zones again, and then you can use the card a second time. It's awkward about if you can get to that. It means that you do have to play like 6-7 advantages in the game to get that, but you'll see that the game ends up going on a little bit longer than you think. So once you have your deck shuffled, what you do is top 3 cards of your deck go into your green zone as green energy. You don't get to look at them, and you basically do that for all zones. You start the game with 3 green energy, 3 yellow energy, and 3 red energy. And then also the next 4 cards are your discard pile. So basically 9 cards to act as energy, 4 cards to act as a start for your discard pile. And you obviously do the same with the opponent as well. So the basic way to view this game is that it's all about energy management. You're going to get a lot of green energy, a decent amount of yellow energy, and red energy is going to be fairly scarce. So you're not going to really get to see a lot of red energy. So you have to be careful about how you use that because of how the game works with regards to getting energy back. But yeah, 4 cards for the discard pile here. And that's your basic setup for the game. The game itself determines who goes first. You look at the cards in the discard pile and you add up the force of all of the cards in your discard pile. So in this case, Aang's deck has 5 plus 1 plus 1, that's 7. And then Zuko's deck has 4 plus 5 plus 1 plus 2, so it's well over 7. Zuko gets to decide if he wants to face the first attack himself or if Aang wants to face the first attack. Basically, the way the game starts off is that you face a default attack of 4. 4 force coming at you. It's the default attack to start off each round, basically, before a point gets scored. So you kind of want to flip cards, so it's best actually to face that yourself. Like 4 isn't too powerful, but it's a decent amount. So you should be able to deal with it. So Zuko won the toss. He is going to go first. So he'll flip the first card. He's facing an attack of 4 force. And so what you do at the start of your turn here is this. On your opening turn, the opening attack, you restore 1 green energy. So you take a card from the discard pile, put it into green energy. And I'll explain how you gain energy as the game goes on. So then, first card from the top of your deck gets flipped into the green zone up here. So, Knuckle Sandwich is what got flipped there. 6 intercept, 4 force. So it has enough defense here to block the attack of 4. And then it's up to you to decide, now do you flip this strike? Do you want to pay the cost and use this to defend against that attack? Or what you can do is, if you wanted to, you could actually choose to, okay, I'm fine with that. Let's flip this into my energy and we'll defend down a zone. So that's one way to gain energy, is to just basically purposefully lose zones, basically. So we could go like, okay, I'm fine with that, I'll gain a green energy, and then we flip into the yellow zone. And then you could be like, I'm fine with that, flip into yellow energy, we'll defend in the red zone. But obviously, as I'll explain, how far down you go determines how much energy your opponent gets at the start of their turn. So you kind of don't want to purposefully go down these zones that much unless you're desperate for energy. So they are going to pay this, so it costs 2 green and 1 yellow. So all they do to pay this is they go 2 green and 1 yellow. They go straight to the discard pile. The energy is paid. They turn the card sideways to designate that they're now counter-attacking. And then basically it switches over to Aang. Aang has to now defend Knuckle Sandwich and its attack of 4. So we come over here. We forced Zuko to defend from the green zone. So we get a green energy back. So we take a card from the discard and it goes into green. If Zuko had to defend from the yellow or red, it obviously determines how much energy you get back. So that's why you want to attack with powerful cards, to force your opponent down here. So you get more energy and your opponent tries to restore their energy but has to use more cards to get there. And that's how the game ends up going. So we've restored energy. Now it's our turn to flip into our main zone. So we flip up here first. So we're defending against 4. This has intercept 4, so that's fine. If it's even, that's fine, no problem. So we could choose to do this, and obviously the Knuckle Sandwich didn't have any effect text. This card actually does. And so we are going to counterattack with this. It's actually quite a good card. So it's called Wind on the Waves, 4 force, 4 intercept, costs 2 green energy, and the effect text says, when you counterattack, you may move one of your green energy to the yellow zone. So that's great. Any effect that puts your energy down a zone is a bonus. It's much rarer to get yellow and red energy, so the more energy you can push down, the better. Because you pretty much always get green energy pretty much every turn, but it's harder to get the other one. So we're going to use this. So we'll pay 2. So we now counterattack. The effect goes off. We move a yellow. Move one of your green energy into yellow. So we take this and it goes here. And that is actually a bonus for us. Because obviously the more powerful cards use more of the yellow and red energy, and that's how the game functions. So we've counterattacked. It goes over to Zuko's side now. He then, what happens here is he cleans up his area first. So the attack from last turn goes to the discard pile. Then he caused Aang to defend from the green zone, so he gets a green energy back, and then he gets the counterattack. So he flips into the green zone. This is our first advantage card flipped here. Bad Breath. So this one says it's 1 yellow energy, and it says immediate. If this zone is already charged, you may uncharge any zone. Now, the basic way advantage cards works is that when you use an advantage card, you charge the zone that you're in. So if he played this card, what would happen is he would charge his green zone by turning the character card sideways. And then when you have all 3 of these zones, the discard pile, the deck, and the character card turned sideways, all charged, that's when you can use the card within Zuko or Aang. So advantage cards are essential to using the character card special ability. So this is an example of a card where he doesn't have any zone charge, so he won't get the effect, but he can still play this card to get the charge, which he will do. So he's going to pay the 1 yellow energy. Because it's an immediate advantage, it goes straight to the discard pile. The character zone gets charged, and then because he played a card here in this zone, he actually gets to still flip in that zone. So as long as you keep paying the cost of whatever card you flip here, you can kind of keep flipping. That's with ally cards and advantage cards, of course, only. So yeah, he flips Flying Fire Fist. This is a rare card, so this is actually one of the most powerful cards in Zuko's deck. Very strong card here. You can see 5 intercept, 7 force. It costs 1 green, 2 yellow, 1 red. When you counterattack, you may eliminate up to 2 green energy. So you take out 2 of your opponent's energy. That's very strong. So this could be a score here for Zuko if this goes well. So he's going to pay this. So he pays 1 green energy, 2 yellow energy. But look, Zuko only has 1 yellow energy. How does he pay this? You can overpay. Basically, yellow energy can count as green energy, red energy can count as green energy, red energy can count for yellow energy, but obviously it doesn't work in reverse. You can't pay for red with green or for yellow with green, but it works the other way around. So he pays his 1 green, he plays his 1 yellow, and in this case he's going to have to pay 2 red to play this card. But it's fine because it's a very strong card. Definitely don't want to flip this over just because you don't have the exact energy cost. And yeah, he's going to fight back with this one. So that's the counterattack right here. When you counterattack, you may eliminate up to 2 green energy. And Aang only has 1, so he's going to eliminate it anyway. So it goes straight to the discard pile. And then it goes over to Aang again. So we clear up our strike from last turn. We gain 1 green energy because we force Zuko to counterattack from this zone. And we flip again. So, Graceful Leap. This is a card that's more valuable if you flip it in this zone or this zone, because its effect is if you pay 2 green, it actually like leaps you back up a zone. So that's some of the cool stuff that is in the Airbender cards, is that a lot of them do stuff like if you end up defending the red zone, you can pay an extra cost and put yourself back up here, which means your opponent gets less energy, and potentially you get yourself an extra flip. But right now, it won't be enough. We're defending against 7. This only has 4, so we're going to have to focus. That's what that's what it's called when you can't pay. Your strike isn't good enough, and you don't want to play it. So you focus, which is basically turning the strike into energy, but you go down a zone. So we have to flip into the secondary zone here with this card. This one only has 6 intercepts, so it's still not good enough, and its effect isn't going to do anything. So we have to focus in the yellow zone as well. So now we're in the red zone here. And again, we only have 4 intercept here on Breath of the Dragon. That is not good enough. So we have to focus here in the red zone as well. And we take a point. So Zuko scores 1 point because of this attack. And what happens here at this point, obviously, is Zuko gets the point, and you just have to keep track of that, of course. Zuko's on 1. And then he doesn't actually get any energy from forcing Aang to defend in all these zones. This is one of those things where like it balances scoring points, so it's not just completely like you score a point and it just continues on from there and compounds itself. He only regains energy upon scoring a point if he has allies in play. So if he had an ally in the green zone, he'd get a green energy. If he had an ally in the red zone, he gets a red energy, and so on. So in this case, he doesn't have any allies in the field, so he just scores the point. You clear up both sides of the field, and then because Aang took the point, he has a point against him now. He lost that round. Aang gets to decide, does he want to take the opening attack, or does he want Zuko to take the attack? So again, like I said, you want to flip cards constantly, so Aang will take the opening attack of 4, which is very manageable. So because it's the opening attack, he gets 1 green energy, and we flip. So Howling Wind is good enough. This card's effect reads, whenever your opponent focuses, Howling Wind gets -1 force. So it's only 1 red energy, and its force will go down as your opponent goes down the zones, but it's a decent card for 1 energy, so it's definitely worth playing. So we're going to pay the red energy. We'll counterattack with Howling Force. So we go over to our opponent's zone, they get 1 green energy, and then they flip. So they have an advantage, but it's in the zone that's already charged. So the effect on Bonzu, Pippin Padlopsicopolis III is immediate. Your opponent uncharges one of his or her zones. Aang hasn't charged anything, so this is kind of like a useless card. Now, this is where what you could do is play it. You don't charge anything, you don't get the effect, but you still get to flip into the green zone. So you can basically pay energy to sort of stay in this zone, but there's almost no point at this point. So you focus. So the effect of Howling Wind goes off, so it's now 4 force only instead of 5, and they're flipping into this zone. And it's Blazing Axe Kick. This is definitely good enough. So this effect is like if you counterattack against a strike that has 3 force or less, Blazing Axe Kick gets +3 force. So it's 3 written on the card, but if it defends against a weak attack, it actually comes back as 6. So it's a pretty interesting card. But yeah, we're going to do this. But this is where you see the energy is quite low. This requires 1 yellow energy, but we only have 1 red energy. We can pay it, but it's going to be a pretty bad thing. This is the example of not having ally cards in play yet. So, but anyway, 2 green, 1 red to count as the yellow, and we'll counterattack. So it's still only 3. The effect on the card doesn't go off, but it's okay. So we forced our Zuko back. We clean up. We get a green energy, and we get a yellow energy, because we force Zuko to defend from the yellow zone, and then we attack again. So we're defending against 3. Here's one of Aang's rare cards, Howling Squall. Again, it has that effect of, it got pretty high attack initially, but as your opponent goes down the zones, it goes down. But it starts at 7, so it's a lot better. So we're actually going to play this. So we'll pay 2 green and 1 red to play this card. We'll turn it sideways to a counter-attack. They get a green energy and they flip. So once you get a hang for how the game flows, you can go pretty quickly with it. And once you remember, even if you defend from this zone, you still get an energy back there. Okay, so the first ally card here has been brought into play, Jojo, the Kissing Bandit. So this is a rare ally, so it's actually a very good one. So Zuko is going to play this. And what you do when you flip an ally is you just pay the cost. But Zuko can't, unfortunately, because Jojo costs 2 yellow. He has no yellow or red to pay it. So he has to focus. So there's the focus. Howling Squall goes down to 6. We go into this zone. Tectonic Shift only has 3 intercept and no effect to boost it up. So you have to focus again. Now into the red zone. Fire Sweep only has 3. And once again, no ability. But Fire Sweep has a very interesting effect. This is sort of a special fire ability because this is a firebending card. It says pitch, eliminate up to 2 energy. So this is another way you can choose to sort of waste a zone. So pitch means discard, eliminate up to 2 energy, but you go down a zone. So he knows he's going to take the damage here, so he's going to activate this ability. So instead of focusing and gaining a red energy, he's going to just discard, and your opponent eliminates 2 green energy. So we take out these 2 energy for Aang. So that at least is an effect going off as Aang scores the point. So it's 1-1 at this point. So then we clean up both sides. No allies in play yet, but Zuko nearly had one in play there. But you can see the way it's going. Aang actually has the advantage here because he has like 5 yellow energy, 2 red energy, and Zuko only has 1 yellow energy. So you can see the way that the game is going. So Zuko does have 1 charge though. That's pretty good. So Zuko suffered that point, so he gets to decide. He will defend against the opening attack of 4. So here's a second Jojo, but there's still not enough to go on. So Jojo also has the ability here, you can see reflip green. We could have done that, but I decided not to. In this case, is it worth doing this or not? I suppose at this point it probably is, because Zuko does have green. So reflip green means you pay a green, and I think what happens is you just discard this, and you just reflip a card here. So this time it's the ally Pirate Captain. Now he can pay this because it's a pretty basic ally. Obviously Pirate Captain from the episode. So he'll pay 1 green, and Pirate Captain basically remains in play here in this zone. And basically it says here, whenever you counterattack from Pirate Captain's zone, look at the top card of your deck. You may put it into your discard pile. So let's see how this works. So we paid the cost here, so we still get to flip into the top zone. So Eye of Ozai. Unfortunately, we can't do this. It's not. We don't have the energy to do it, so we have to focus. So we focus here, and then we go down into this zone. This time with Burning Lash. Again, also still don't have enough energy because this requires 2 yellow energy, which Zuko doesn't have over here. It does have an ability where you can take down the intercept to kind of counterattack and cause your opponent to uncharge the zone, but they can't have that, so they have to focus. And now into the red zone. This time it's double foot drop kick. This time it's good. Now there's an interesting choice to be made here because of the card double foot drop kick. As you can see, it's a boomy card. 5 defense, so it's good against the opening attack of 4, but also has the ability pay a yellow, get +4/4. So this could be a 5/5 if you want to do that, but Zuko only has 2 yellow. So in this case, it is probably best to just pay the 1 yellow. Even though it's only going to be an attack of 1 countering back, Zuko doesn't want to go down any more than this. So he'll just pay the 1 yellow to counter attack for 1, and we'll go from here. But he does have an ally in play, so that's good. So we cause Zuko to attack all the way from down here, so we get a green, a yellow, and a red energy for causing it to go all the way down to here. So then we flip into this zone here. So there we go. An advantage finally for Aang. Dust Storm. When you counterattack, add a yellow energy. You pay 2 2 green. So yeah, we'll play that. So we'll pay 1 and we'll overpay a yellow. So this just stays in play because it's not an immediate advantage. The idea is that this stays in play until it comes around to our next turn, at which point it's discarded. It just helps for certain ones that like add intercept, which only will come into play, you know, the next time or whatever. So yeah, we played it there. We charge our top zone and then we flip again. This time we get an ally card, Monkey Atso. So very fitting for Aang that Monkey Atso has been put in play. So we'll overpay for his cost. He only costs a green, but we have to pay a yellow because we don't have any green. But Monkey Atso will be an ally in our zone. And this is an example of like we played an advantage and an ally, but we're still flipping into the top zone because we've paid the costs correctly. So Kyoshi Fan Throw, 5 defense, 4 attack, and we can move energy if we want to. Cost 3 green, which would be fine if we had green energy, but if we were to play this, we'd have to pay 3 yellow, which isn't worth it. So we'll just focus here. But it says here, whenever you flip a card in Monkey Atso's zone, turn the top of your deck face up. That's his ability. So you can get a sense for what the next card is. So the top card of our deck is the Ganjin tribe. So it's another ally. And this is actually quite good. This is fine. So we will focus Kyoshi Fan Throw, meaning that this card then gets flipped into the second zone as an ally. We'll pay this. So we'll pay, it costs 2 green, but we'll pay 1 green and 1 yellow to play it. So now we have 2 allies in play. 1 in the green zone, 1 in the yellow zone. The effect of Ganjin Tribe is green. In Ganjin Tribe zone, your strikes have +1 intercept. So you pay a green to get an extra intercept, which is good for the defensive deck that Aang is. And we continue to flip in this zone. So, Breath of the Dragon. This is a card we will play. It's actually quite good. So it costs 2 yellow. So we'll pay that. We're only obviously countering an attack of 1, so it doesn't really matter. But we'll pay the 2 yellow and we'll counter attack. There's no need to add extra intercept or anything. But Breath of the Dragon says, when you counter attack, look at the top 2 cards of your deck. Put 1 on the top of your deck and discard the other one. So we get to choose basically. The next time we'll flip a card will be at the start of our next turn, so it'll basically be the first card that gets flipped here. So which is the best of these? High defense or high attack? The best card here is actually Swirling Flames. It's actually an Iroh card, I think. Or we could play Spinning Tempest, which is a rare. I'll actually go for the bigger card here. So we'll discard Swirling Flames and we'll keep Spinning Tempest. And we're counter-attacking for 6, which is very high. So, yeah, comes over to Zuko's side of things. This gets discarded. He causes us to attack from yellow, so he gets a green and a yellow from the discard pile, and then he flips up here. So, yeah, Boiling Point has 8 defense. That's definitely good enough to counter, but it requires a red energy, which Zuko does not have. So he has to focus. So then we flip into the yellow zone. Searing Cage has enough defense, but again requires a red energy, so he has to focus. Into the red zone, it's only the card Flare, which only has 4 defense. That's not enough. He has to focus. So Zuko takes a second point. So the tides have turned quite heavily, basically because of energy management. So Zuko takes 2 damage. Now he's at 2 damage. So 1 more damage for Aang, and Aang wins. So then we do the cleanup. So this goes away, the strike goes away. Aang celebrates, so he gets a green energy because he has Monkey Atso in the green zone, and he celebrates as well with a yellow energy because of Ganjin Tribe. And then Zuko gets to decide where things are going. This advantage card goes away as well. And yeah, so Zuko will take the attack, of course. So here we go. Fiery Temper is an advantage, and it says, reflip green, immediate, you may eliminate an ally. So, that actually is pretty interesting. Does he want to do that? Pay the cost here to eliminate an ally, but in a zone that's already charged. Does he want to play 1 green to reflip? That's probably the best option actually here. The allies that Aang has aren't overly, like, you know, offensive, so they don't affect Zuko too much. So what we're going to do here is just pay 1 to reflip. So this goes to the discard pile. we pay 1 green, and we reflip into this zone here. So again, the opening attack is 4. Downdraft here is enough to counter it, which Zuko kind of wants to do here just to stabilize. So downdraft is just 1 green energy, which he'll pay to defend. But this is where Pirate Captain goes off. When you counterattack from the Pirate Captain zone, look at the top card of your deck. You may discard it if you want. So this will be the card Zuko defends with next turn, and it's actually quite good. 5 defense, 4 attack, 3 green energy. When you counterattack, you may eliminate a green energy. That is fine. That's a very solid card. But anyway, we come back over to Aang. He gets 1 green energy, and then he counterattacks. So here's what we set up from that last turn, Spinning Tempest. We put this on the top of our deck with the Breath of the Dragon card that got us the last point, and we will pay this. So when you flip a card in Monkey Yatso's zone, turn the top card of your deck face up. So we just get a sense for what our next card would be, so that's fine. Of course we want to play Spinning Tempest, so 1 green, 1 red, and we can also choose to pay -3 intercept when you counterattack, move 1 of your yellow energy into your red zone. Absolutely. We're defending against 3, we've got 7, so if we take away 3, we're still defending with 4. That's fine, we'll do that. So we get to move 1 of our yellow energy into our red zone, which is a benefit. And then we, of course, counterattack. So this is where Zuko comes over here. This goes to the discard pile. He gets 1 green energy, and he flips. So he's defending against 3, which he has because he set this one up from last turn as well. And he will pay this. So 3 green energy for fetch. When you counterattack, you may eliminate a green energy. So Aang's green energy gets eliminated. And we counterattack here. Pirate Captain goes off in the ally zone. Do we want to basically discard this or not? It's a kind of mid-range card. It's okay. It's got a pitch ability. I think that's actually okay to keep. That's pretty solid. So then, yeah, we come over here. This gets discarded and gets 1 green energy. And then we know what we're going to flip. So we flip Downdraft over here. It's just about strong enough to counterattack. And I suppose because we know what Zuko's thing is here to eliminate green energy, we might as well pay our last green energy to play this card to counterattack with. And then we get to see, because of Monkey Yatso, what our next flip is. So that's what we're going to be doing next, which is actually a pretty good card, Careening Koi. So again, a lot of these cards are like book 1 stuff, so that's what's going on here. But anyway, yeah, this gets discarded. Zuko gets a green energy. He flips. He's defending against 3. The pitch won't work. He might as well, yeah, just pay the 1 green energy to defend while you can. Basically just making good use of the energy, not needlessly just gaining 1 green energy to use something more powerful. This is fine. So yeah, we're counterattacking here, so 1 green energy once again. We flip this over here. So Careening Koi, we have enough defense. It costs 3 green, but we'd have to overpay. But we its ability won't go off. When you counterattack, you may move 1 of your yellow to your red, but if we pay, we won't have any yellow. So that's probably not great. So what we'll do here is, of course, Gyatso goes off since we flipped, so we can see what's coming up next, which is an advantage, which is great. So we'll focus, and then we'll flip the revealed Dust Storm into the second zone, and we will pay for Dust Storm here. So we'll pay 2 green for this advantage, which says when you counterattack, add a yellow energy. So this goes up here. When you counterattack, add a yellow energy, we charge our zone here because we played an advantage, and we flip into this zone here as well. Kyoshi Pride here is pretty good. We can reflip for a green, but there's no point. It's actually quite a good card. We pay 2 yellow to play this, which we will. And yeah, we're counterattacking from the second zone for 5. And we counterattacked, so we gain a yellow energy. The advantage goes off, and it goes back to our opponent's turn. So this goes to the discard pile. He gains a green and a yellow, because he caused us to defend from that zone. And then he flips. So he gets Dust Storm in the top zone, but there's no point in really doing this here, because he has a decent amount of energy. So we'll just go straight down the zones. So here we go. Another good advantage for Zuko here to charge his second zone. Immediate. If this zone is already charged, you may charge any zone. So basically we're just paying 2 green here to charge the zone because that effect won't quite go off. So we'll play that. Immediate, it goes straight to the discard pile. We charge the secondary zone and we flip here as well. So here is another advantage. Closed hand form. Your strikes have +1 force, but there's no need to play that now. So we will flip to gain a yellow energy and we're defending in this zone here. And unfortunately that decision was fatal for Zuko here. Only 4 defense, no way to boost anything up to 5. This is where that decision making comes into play, in that, like, if he had played this card, oh, actually no, it's not intercept, so no, that wouldn't have changed anything. So yeah, it's just this card is not enough to win. So yeah, he has to focus in the last zone. The Kyoshi Pride does the damage, so that's Zuko's 3rd damage. That's the comeback victory for Aang. He took the first damage, but then he got the next 3. And you can see that what basically happened there was that Zuko used red energy early on to get that first damage, but then really couldn't get it back, and then the flips didn't quite go his way, whereas Aang was able to sort of build up a board with like some allies on board. Obviously that's an example of a game where the zones didn't get charged to use the chamber card attack or anything like that, because it is ultimately relatively rare that you get down here and kind of have enough energy to really pay for like something like an advantage to then use a strike. So the chamber card attacks are somewhat difficult to get off unless you get very lucky with the way the card draws go. But just as a rules example, how it works is if all the zones are charged, what happens is basically yeah, so say Zuko just counterattacked, say with boomerang toss, so it's got 1 power. All of our zones are charged at this point in time. What would happen is that, okay, we get our green energy, and now instead of flipping, we have to, before we flip a card into the top zone, we decide we're using our charges, we're playing the chamber card. So we just uncharge everything, and then we play Aang. It counts as this strike. It's obviously a strike card, as you can see in here. It doesn't count as if it's coming from any zone. So it's technically just like a separate area on the board, but it's still a strike. Yeah, it still has an energy cost. Like you pay 1 green energy. It's got 5 defense, which is enough, and then it's got 7 damage. And it also has that ability a lot of the Airbender cards have. When your opponent focuses, Penguin Sledding gets -1 force. But for 1 green, that's excellent value. And then you have to see, does that do damage? The big thing with playing this, though, is that when it comes to your opponent's turn, because you've technically counterattacked from no zone, your opponent doesn't get any energy on their turn, not even that 1 green that you pretty much always get. So that's another thing to it of why you want to do it. And then, of course, what happens then is, regardless of what happens when it comes back around to you, you close up the chamber card, you then flip Aang over, and you try and charge your zones again. And then when you do, you play the other side of Aang, which in this case is the card Vertigo Dash, which is 6/6 when you counterattack, add an energy to each of your zones. That's incredible as a card in this game. To be able to get a red, a yellow, and a green, and it's 6/6 for no cost, very, very strong. So that's how you do your like ultimate attack, basically. And Zuko's one is his basic attack is Burning in Exile, 2 green for a 6/5, 6 defense, 5 attack. When you counterattack, you may uncharge any zone, so you stop your opponent doing their attack. And on the other side, it's called Immolating Spiral. Again, no cost, 7 defense, 4 attack. When you counterattack, you may eliminate up to 2 energy, so you get to choose. So typically what you do is you just go straight away. All the red energy, if they have any, all your yellow, and you basically just really shut your opponent down that way. So that's, it gives you an idea for, there is a strategy to this game, in the sense of like the Zuko / Firebender decks that aren't Iroh, so mainly Zuko and Zhao tend to be like eliminate your opponent's energy and just have fairly high force. Aang tends to have cards that have like pretty good intercept, so defense, but also high attack that then goes down over time as your opponent defends. And they've got little tricky things like being able to jump up zones and so on. I'll see can I find any of the really interesting cards just to sort of finish off the video. Chi Absorption. So here's an example of a card that brings you down a zone. Move Chi Absorption down one zone, add a yellow energy. So if you flip this straight away, before you even pay the outside costs, you basically just are like down, you sacrifice the zone to get a yellow energy, and then you pay the cost. So it sort of pays for itself in a way, of like you go from green down to yellow, you get a yellow, so you're only paying red for it just by using that ability. Zoom is probably one of the best cards in the Aang deck. It's 4 defense, 6 attack, 2 green, move Zoom up a zone. So if you get down to red, you can go up a zone here. And what you can do then is, because you always pay the cost for the ability before you pay the sidebar cost, the idea is that you can choose to then focus Zoom once it's up a zone. So you can pay 2 green to basically get a 4th flip, and then you flip into this zone and then come down here. So it's quite interesting how it works. Anything else in the Aang deck that's particularly interesting? Aang's like ally card. If you get it in Aang's zone, your strikes have +1 intercept. So it's basically sort of like a slightly altered version of Gon Jin Tribe, in that with Gon Jin Tribe you pay 2 green, but you have to pay a green every time you want the 1 intercept. Whereas with Aang, you just pay 1 red and you get 1 intercept if you're in that zone regardless. So it's the idea of constantly playing green versus just 1 red. And it's up to you to decide the value. King Boomy is very, very strong, especially in the Aang decks, because it sort of counters the weakness of a lot of Aang's cards. It says, in King Boomy's zone, your strikes have, whenever your opponent focuses, this strike gets +1 force while it's in King Boomy's zone. So if you counterattack and pay the cost for King Boomy, every time your opponent goes down a zone, you go up 1. And because a lot of Aang's strikes have -1 force every time your opponent goes down a zone, it evens it out. So it's a great combo card with Aang. So there is some strategy to the game. It's very random though, and it's completely dependent on deck building, in that if you want to see a card, you pretty much have to have 4 copies of it in the deck, otherwise you just may not ever see it. And even in this deck, you saw it had a bunch of like effects going off, like Monkey Atso, where I could look at the next card, and I used a lot of the Iroh strikes, where they're like, you may look at the next 2 cards of your deck and discard 1 and put the next one on top of your deck. It still isn't like great to be able to like get exactly what you want, but then it's so awkward with regards to like, if I put like 5 extra advantages in the deck and took out that many strikes, I'd have way more times when I'd flip an advantage and then another advantage and then maybe an ally, and I'd just really ruin my turn, because then I'd either have to use a lot of energy to stay in the zone, or I'd have to focus, and I'd lose a point. Because that's what happened on the last point on this side of the board, is that like, it didn't look that threatening for the most part. It was a fairly powerful attack, but Zuko was like kind of in control of like, yeah, okay, fine, do this, and then it's like, oh, we just don't have enough power in the last zone. It's not going to work. So yeah, that's a lot of the stuff with that. This is actually a very good card, Channel the Winds. It's in both decks. It's a rare advantage. 3 green, immediate, you may charge any zone. So basically the zone you play this card in gets charged, and then you charge another zone. So this is like essential to getting your chamber cards off. So any deck that has that symbol, you'd want to play like 4 of this, obviously, is for sure as your allies, as your advantage. Quickly go through some of the stuff in the Zuko deck. Let me just quickly look at the energy. Yeah, nothing particularly great going on there. Yeah. One of Zuko's allies that he has as a Twilight character is Malu, the Airbender, one of the newer Airbender characters. She's 1 green, but in Malu's zone, your strikes have, your opponent skips defending in his or her green zone. You have to pay 2 green to get that. But that's incredibly powerful to like immediately have your opponent just ignore this and start defending in the middle zone. There's actually 2 copies of this in the deck, because I only have 2 copies, but it's a really, really good ally. So that's really strong. And then I don't think Jojo actually was able to be put in play, but it's actually a very good ally as well. When you counterattack from JoJo's zone, eliminate one of your opponent's green energy and you add a green energy. So it goes into the whole elimination thing, but you get an energy back as well. So 2 strong allies for Zuko. Anything else? Yeah, Wildfire Arc is another strong card. As you can see here, 7/6, -4 intercept. When you counterattack, your opponent eliminates one of his or her allies. That's quite strong. Yeah, we saw that card. Yeah, and again, a lot of the main cards for like Zuko in terms of the bull cards are like eliminate one of your opponent's allies and so on. So they're fairly strong. Anything else here? The Prince Zuko card is okay, but in a game where you care so much about energy, it feels a little bit like it's not great. It's 1 green to play him. Eliminate an energy in Prince Zuko's zone. When you counterattack from Prince Zuko's zone, eliminate an energy of the same color. So it's like, it just feels bad because like you have to pay for the cost of the card to get the effect off, and then you basically have to pay like in yellow, pay a yellow to eliminate a yellow. It feels like you're paying a little too much to not get that much of an effect. Yeah, this card I think it's pretty good. It's like a Jet Strike Falling Leaf Ambush. It's actually quite good. It's just a generic card you can put in any deck. It is a rare though. It's a 1 green, 2 yellow, 6 defense, 4 attack. You pay an extra red and a green, and the card gets +2 intercept and +2 force. So it's very, very strong. I think just the idea that it can turn into an 8/6. And it's just a sort of generic card. I think that works very cool for this deck. But yeah, that's about it. I don't have a lot of the super rare cards. Like I have the Zenimental card for like Iroh and stuff like that. I just didn't have any really of the other cards to put an Iroh deck together. And then again, even if I had put some of those cards into this deck, you probably wouldn't have seen them in the game, just the way it goes. So this was a very fun video to like kind of put together in terms of like the deck building stuff, but the games tend to be a little like autopilot. Like there's not that many decisions to make for the most part. Just with the way the game actually functions, like I think it is solid, there's some room for deck building, but because there's only one set, because the cards are so difficult to get, I think it's super difficult to really, I think, get into that strategy, in that unless you have 4 copies of every single card, or if you're just playing by yourself, like 8 copies of every single card, it's so tricky to, I think, get the maximum from this. Like, there's a difference between just my random selection of cards. Then there's a difference between what you just get from your starter deck, just a bunch of random cards, mainly generic cards, versus you have every single card in the set multiple times, including the rares. In that case, then like, oh yeah, you're using the rare chamber card, you're using like 3 copies of every rare, you're using 3 copies of the Zenimental card, because like Aang's one is like the Avatar state. Suddenly it's a whole different game, in my opinion. So yeah, they're my thoughts on this. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are. Have you actually ever played a game of Quickstrike? And if this is your first time seeing the game, what are your thoughts on how this game actually functions? Again, it's just one of these topics that's kind of obscure for Avatar, but I really like to talk about it every so often. So I'm glad I was able to put out sort of a decently recorded game of this trading card game. So that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.